Hello and welcome to the BrotherlyGame.com Roundtable, the post-mortem of the Philadelphia Union season, which sadly and shockingly has come to an end. I'm joined by Brotherly Game photographer Morgan Tencza and Brotherly Game writer Greg Oldfield, and a special guest, Sebastian. Sebastian, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do in the game, and you don't need to say how I roped you into this. I twisted your arm a little bit, but if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Sebastian Acosta-Nijamkin. I am the girls director of coaching and operations and development director for Delaware Union, and which is a youth soccer club in Delaware. And we also have a podcast called The Soccer Podcast, and Matt's been on before, and so.
Yeah, it was great, and you and Daryl do a great job of talking about all kinds of aspects of soccer. One of the things I appreciate about the show, you talk about, a lot of the different aspects of the pro game and what's going on in the soccer world, but also you talk a lot about, about things related to being in the club, right? Things about like how to sort of manage what's going on. And one of the things, I appreciate about Sebastian is how you guys kind of like, you're really open and transparent about things, right? Like you're not trying to hide how you run your club. You're really really been open about how to sort of what your goals are as a club and what you're trying to do with your players and everything, which is really cool. So I guess to start off with, one of the other reasons I wanted to have Sebastian on was, Sebastian is originally from Argentina, and this isn't an Argentina story necessarily, but certainly Diego Maradona was from Argentina. Someone who is a global was a global icon of sport and a global icon of soccer. So I guess to start off, Sebastian, when when you hear the news, what's your reaction, and what has sort of been what's followed when you've sort of seen the tributes coming in and talking to your dad about getting to see him play, and what's sort of been your response to this tragic and really sad news in the soccer world?
So it was really weird. I was watching a TV show from Argentina, a soccer show, as it was happening. So it kind of caught me off guard. But it was really strange. I was talking to my dad about it because Maradona's had run-ins with health issues before, and to a certain extent, it was almost that weird feeling of like he's going to be immortal to a certain extent. So when it became true that he passed away, it was really strange. For me, I was explaining this to my wife. For me, he's a big part of my connection to my country. He's a big part of the connection to Boca Juniors that I have, because he's, to a certain extent, for a long time, and even to this day, he's the connection to Argentina that most people have. People, you say, "Oh, yeah, I'm from Argentina." Oh, Maradona's that's where Maradona is. People now, the younger generations now say Messi. But for a long time, that was it. You equated Argentina to Maradona. So definitely a strange feeling. But I think you saw it with what happened worldwide, and even in Argentina with the outpouring of emotion from everybody. I think that's what he brought. So.
Yeah, definitely. There was something, there's certain players that kind of come along, right? Sort of generational players. I think he was a multi-generational player just because of his influence will continue to go on, past his certainly well past his playing career in his life. Greg, you're a guy who kind of came of age and grew up in a time period where like he was sort of ruling the world, right? The winning the World Cup and everything when you were a kid. What's sort of your early memories of Maradona, and what's kind of been your what's sort of your takeaway from just the experience of who he was as a player and what he meant to the game?
I think, just growing up as a soccer player in America, it's dominated by other sports. Maradona was kind of the figure that you wanted to aspire to be like. You wanted to, you looked up to him. Unfortunately, you didn't get to see him a lot on TV. So he existed in my mind on a poster that my brother and I used to have in our bedroom of him after winning the '86 World Cup. And that was sort of the poster that we had that we kind of used to just look at all the time. And that's kind of where the dreams start. from then he kind of existed more on the videotapes you buy. You buy the old videotapes with the highlights from the different World Cups, and you start to see like how good of a player he was. And then eventually you get to 94, where even though he wasn't in his prime anymore, he was still just magical on the ball and just so influential. So as you're kind of growing up and you're hearing his name, and you're kind of making connections between his legacy and like your goals as a player, he's kind of the guy that you want to be like, and on the field, he just did things that you've never seen before. And then you want to go try them, and that's kind of what you want to be like, you just want to do what he did, and you'd fail miserably at it, but that was the goal. You wanted to be like Maradona on the field.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of us failed worse than others. I think I couldn't even do a percentage of what he could do. But Morgan, you're the kid here in this chat. But what do you know about Maradona, and what has sort of been your response to kind of like maybe learning a little bit more about him, since he was kind of ruled the world long before you came into the world.
So before I even started getting into soccer, it was like middle school, and my friend was teaching me this trick called the Maradona, where you like dance on the ball. So that's the first time I heard his name. And I was like, what does this mean? He goes, oh, it was some soccer player. So I was like, okay. So when I got into soccer, I've heard of him. I've seen clips and stuff, but like, obviously I've never seen him play live. And then when I was coming home from England last year on the plane, they had the documentary, and I had been wanting to watch it, but it's on HBO, so I didn't have HBO. And I was like, okay, we're watching this. And the whole time I was sitting there like this man was incredible. And like, I've seen Messi, I've seen Ronaldo play, and they have nothing on him. And like, he's truly one of the best to play the game ever. And seeing that documentary, seeing his whole life, how it worked out, and it pretty much seemed like Sebastian said that he was invincible. I've seen things on Twitter saying like he died so young, but at the same time with everything that he did he die so young? Like it's like he had that stereotypical celebrity lifestyle that you don't really see in athletes as much, but you see a lot in celebrities. So he was that young star, and a lot of those young stars mess up when they grow up. But he was truly one of the best to play the game ever. And so seeing his highlights and stuff, I wish I could have seen him play in real life.
This is a sad story. This is a sad roundtable, I think. The Union, they win the Supporters Shield. I was there that night. Morgan, you were there as well. Just an incredible moment for this franchise, incredible moment for the club. And then, Greg and I were kind of talking a little bit about this, and Sebastian, we talked about how, we basically were confident they were going to win it, and they did. But, there's I think early on, even like the celebration, I was like, I started to get nervous, because it was like when you saw the cooler come out and you're like, oh man, like, yes, they won a trophy, but we got stuff to play for. Like, this feeling of like this is really, really good, and this is great, but like, why is there 16 days until they play again? Why do they have to play? You saw the schedule. I mean, did anyone not think they were going to play New England? I mean, I think it was pretty much an inevitability. Morgan, you're there that night. What were you seeing, and what do you think went wrong, and what was sort of the experience of sort of the reality that this incredible season, which had ended once before and started again, and then ended again, and then started again, what was that experience like for you?
Honestly, it was really heartbreaking to be a part of, just because, like, yes, you're going to play a team so many times. You can only beat them so many times. And that's what I kept on thinking when we were losing. And it's like, I wasn't as sad as I thought I would be, because the season is over, and that's really heartbreaking. But we accomplished so much on and off the field this year. But yeah, it was a tough way to go out. I was talking to the McKenzie family right after the game, and we were just saying how New England came out and played really well, and we came out and didn't. And that was pretty much the worst game we played all year, in my opinion, and it came at the worst time. But like I said, we played such a good season. It was a historic season, COVID and everything. It was probably the hardest season a team would ever have to play, and we won the Shield, which in the world of soccer is the best trophy you can get in your league. I know in America, we all love playoffs. We all love the MLS Cup. And most of the people in the league do value the MLS Cup higher. But if you're looking at this from outside view, if you're looking at it from Europe, they don't know what playoffs are. They only know that the Shield or the best record is the winner. That's what they reward in the Premier League. So I think, especially in a year like this, that the Supporter Shield is a super, super huge deal. And we did get it. But it was heartbreaking to see Mark and Brendan, two players who I've been shooting for 3 years now, since Steel days and now Union days. It broke my heart to see their emotions because it's probably it's definitely the last time Brendan is in a Union jersey for now. And it's probably the last time Mark was on the field as well. You saw that in his emotion. And at the end of the game, it was just really heartbreaking to see their reactions. The fans were, in my opinion, were not that good. Towards the end of the game, there was one guy cursing out the players saying, "You guys suck. Like, you don't deserve the Supporter Shield." And I'm like, you don't deserve to be a fan. You don't deserve to be one of the few who were able to go there if you're not going to respect this team. So there was a lot of mixed emotions for me.
But Greg, you were there. You sort of wrote about it. Some of the things that went wrong. But in terms of when you're watching the game and sort of seeing the result, what's kind of your reaction? To besides the fact that now we don't have any games to write about for a while.
I mean, it was frustrating, number one, because we'd seen little bits and pieces of what they did that game throughout the season. Like you said, there's times where they didn't show up. There's times where they had trouble, breaking down a defense that was going to sit back. There's times where, your forwards don't show up. There's times where certain players don't have their best game. And, a lot of times in the beginning of the season, they were saved by Andre Blake. And, as the game sort of unfolds and you start to see, where's a goal going to come from? Like Sebastian said, that second half, Ilsinho was the best player on the field. But, he's also combining with Bedoya, who's, you could tell he was exhausted. He was lucky to finish the game. He was running so hard. And I think the bigger problem sort of started up top. We've talked a lot about Casper's struggles. We've talked a lot about their inability to combine as a strike partnership. You get in some of these games where, they're pushing forward, they're pressing, and you get the midfielders with the ball. They're looking up who they're passing to. The forwards gave them nothing, and that was a big problem towards the end of that game. Losing Aronson hurts a little bit. He didn't have his best game. But I also thought, when he combines with Ilsinho, he's like one of those players that the two of them sort of work together on the same page. You didn't have him in there. And I just think that there was a whole combination of things that just did not go well for them in that game. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating because they've been able to bail themselves out. But I think, like you said, going down 2 goals, it's a situation that they haven't seen in a long time. And they weren't prepared for it. Like Sebastian said, there was the plan B was that they've never been in that situation probably since the Dallas game. And they really had to start pushing and pressing. And I just don't think this team is ever built for that.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be one of those things that they're going to need to address in the offseason. It's going to be a very different team. Morgan, you touched on sort of your own, kind of personal, like, this feeling of, you've gotten to know some of these guys for, the last few years, shooting them and seeing their progress. I've certainly been there as well. And, with following the academy, and then you kind of see them graduate into the team, and then you see, how instrumental, certainly Brendan, certainly Mark, and some of the other, homegrown players have been, and then you sort of, you want the best for them. And I do think that, and Brendan had said in the press conference prior to the end of the season, about, being in the stands and when the penalty kicks against SKC and the Open Cup final, and, sort of having, this thought even as a young man of, wanting the team to win a trophy as a fan wanting that, right? And then for him to actually to be on that field, along with Matt Freese, who's at the first game, and Mark and stuff, and sort of to lift that trophy. I think that's going to be that's the thing I think we'll ultimately remember most about the season. But Morgan, when you look back, like what's sort of is there an image or just something that that'll kind of stay with you that kind of sums up the season that they've had?
Honestly, the photos that I have from them lifting the shield, I was a wreck. I was crying because I was a fan first before I even have the opportunity to shoot them or intern with them. And I know how hard the team has worked, from the coaches to the players to the front office. They have worked so hard to accomplish this. And for everything that they've put in for this season, for the layoffs that they had, for the pay cuts that they had, I was a wreck. Like, they deserved it more than anyone. And seeing everyone get to lift the shield, getting to see the pictures of the front office staff having to hold the shield. And it was just a beautiful moment to wrap up a beautiful season that I think, ignoring the postseason stuff, ignoring the failure that was that game, everything post the break of COVID was phenomenal from the team. Everything that they had to do. It's just like seeing them lift the shield, seeing Ale, their emotion in his face because he's worked so hard for this, seeing the homegrowns getting to lift it themselves, seeing everyone just so excited and so honored to be a part of this team. It was just an image I'll never get out of my head.
Sebastian, what about for you? You look back at the season. I mean, one of the things I've said to people is, if you had asked me in May if there was going to be a season and if there was going to be any trophies awarded, I was like, I don't know, we'll see, right? But for you, what's sort of the thing that you'll look back on the Union season and that'll stand out for you?
I mean, I think it's the process, right? The idea of Brendan Aronson, of Mark McKenzie scoring his first goal. I think it's those moments of Fontana being a key part in certain games. I think it's the idea of the process of the homegrown mentality that this organization has for a lot of it. I think it's the Supporters Shield. I think gives you the recognition for the fact that what you've done over the last 5-6 years has worked. The development you have something that you can say, how do you measure development? There it is. Like, you have something that you can say, this is how we measure it. This is what we achieved. I think now the question is, what's next? What is that next milestone? And then what are you building towards next? But I think for me, it's that development of the youth academy players.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great year for Delaware soccer, man. All right, to have the 302 connection with Mark and Anthony really really excelling at the highest level in the U.S. and certainly Mark will go on to bigger things and bring more recognition to onto your level, right? I mean, you guys are doing. One of the things I think that the MLS probably doesn't give enough credit to the local clubs that are teaching the game, that are teaching the love of soccer that you're doing, for boys and girls at your level. And so I think, we've talked about this before, Sebastian, when you have players like Mark and Anthony who reach that pinnacle, that just gets everybody around them excited. I mean, Bear Delaware is on the map, right? I mean, that's pretty awesome. Newark was already on the map because there's a university there and stuff. But Bear Delaware, now has is on the cusp of having a player playing in Europe. So, and playing for the U.S. men's national team. So I think that's really cool. And congratulations to Delaware, right? I mean, for a great season as well. And I think too the homegrown situation really, for me, it celebrates the whole area, right? It celebrates that we have players coming from New Jersey, from Delaware, from Pennsylvania. And then we also bring in players from outside the area and they kind of, become, Jack McGlynn's one of ours now, Nate Harriel is one of ours. Yes, he's from Florida, but hey, just like Sebastian is one of ours now. So is Nate. kind of coming to the area and joining the program, and now he'll be on the first team next year. Greg, what about for you? What's sort of the big takeaway? I know you've written a lot about Jim Curtin and sort of about his journey in this, but what's sort of the thing that's going to stick with you from this season?
I think the process, like Sebastian said, and just the growth. As a franchise, you want to see growth. You want to see that the program's heading in the right direction. You want to see that they're making progress. You've seen huge improvements over the last couple of seasons. Your coach is getting better. Your players are getting better. Your young players are stepping in and taking responsibility. And when you think back even to the beginning of this season, that was a question mark. I mean, how deep was Curtin going to go to the bench? And now he can, and now you have Mbazo playing for Cameroon, like there's things that are happening where you feel like if you lose Aronson and you lose McKenzie and you lose Wagner, you're still in good shape. And that's kind of what you want. You want the team to be just as good the next year, even when you lose, the caliber of players that you're losing. So I think that's definitely positive, that gives us hope, that gives us, helps us overcome the loss in the playoffs, that next year they're going to come back, they're going to be just as strong and, or hopefully be able to lift some more trophies, so I think that's a good thing, that's a positive thing. So that was my biggest takeaway. I think just the fact that they were, able to progress, they were able to get better. And, people around the country are talking about the Philadelphia Union, which, they hadn't, since they've started. So I think that's a big step for the team.
Yeah, definitely. I've talked before about how at the end of the season, typically it's been, the team didn't do that great, so you're comparing them to previous teams. Like, this is the first team to get such X amount of points, or they scored more goals off the bench than they did last year. You find these stats, to promote the team and to sort of sell a narrative. But this year, they were the best team in the league, and yes, there's an asterisk, there's caveats, all that stuff, but they're the best team in the league. They came back better than most of the other teams came back in terms of figuring out how to play soccer again and be a team, when there's a lot of restrictions. I mean, let's not forget that these players, Jose got it because of travel and all that for his national team. Casper got it early on. But, they didn't have COVID didn't derail their season. They didn't have, they weren't in a situation where they didn't win the Shield because they missed X amount of games and their points per game, they finished lower, right? Like, it wasn't a situation where you didn't hear a lot of complaining about the players, about pay cuts, about, the stuff that was happening, like to be down in the bubble. You didn't hear a lot of grumbling. I mean, unfortunately, the Kai Wagner stuff kind of came out right before the playoff game, which I think leaves a lot of question marks about him and what, him and his agent and what they were trying to accomplish by doing that. But, for the most part, this team stuck together. And I think for me, covering a team as much as, as I do and as much time as I spend with this, I think like seeing a team that you really wanted to succeed because they were doing things as a team. I mean, the fact that they went down to Florida and when they turn around and they have those names on their jerseys, for me is still going to be the thing that I'll never forget. To see a team come together and say, you know what, we're doing this as a team. This isn't, just Warren, this isn't just Ray, like we're doing this together as a team, and we're going to say something about these people who've been victims, and we're going to wear their names on our jerseys. I think to me is still just such a powerful statement. And they've done a lot of things as an organization that, it's kind of been easy to criticize them. I mean, let's be honest. The previous regime seemed to like ignore Chester completely for a number of years, and there weren't really a lot of things going well in the organization. I mean, but they've really done a lot of things from top to bottom that I think are admirable, and that that have represented a team that you can celebrate. So I guess to wrap things up, thanks again for joining. It is the holiday gift giving season, so I did want to ask you all, if there's what your favorite sort of soccer related gift that you've gotten has been over the years, and if you can recommend a gift idea for someone who's looking to buy for someone who's a soccer fan or soccer player on their list. So we'll start with you, Morgan.
It's actually a recent gift. For my birthday, what was 2 months ago, my sister got me a large blow up of one of my favorite pictures I've taken, Julie Ertz celebrating at the She Believes Cup. It was a beautiful little tribute photo. Recommendation for gifts, I'm selling prints of the Supporter Shield celebration photos. So if you want some, you can contact me on Twitter.
And that's at Morgan Tencza on Twitter. If you're not following her, you should be following her, certainly. Sebastian.
The best soccer gift that I got is a little bit nerdy, but we did a Secret Santa a couple of years ago when we traveled to Florida to visit my family and some friends there. We did a Secret Santa, and I got I wanted flat disc cones for indoor soccer. And I got those, and I thought that was I've used those multiple times, and I really enjoyed that. So that might have been getting a little nerdy, but I really enjoy those. And then something that I would recommend, it's actually something my wife got me. That's pretty cool. It's a website called awaydays.com, and they do they send you can do different subscriptions, but I have one where I'm going to get a sticker every month from a different soccer club, and they send you a newsletter about a different soccer club every month. So that's pretty cool. You can do a mystery kit subscription too, where they can send you different jerseys. So if you collect soccer jerseys, there you go.
Yes, I actually have that on my list. So that's a good one. Greg?
I think I probably got a soccer ball every year, and every year that was my favorite gift. So it didn't matter if it was a size 1 or, a size 5, that was probably my favorite. One year I did get Subbuteo, which was awesome. That was fun for a little while. You have the little figurines where they dribble the ball around, and that was cool. So yeah, the coach in me is going to say the soccer ball is going to be the best gift you could give a soccer player, because they can use that until the dog gets it and rips it to shreds, and it'll last a long time. So that may sound a little boring, but to me, that's still the greatest gift I've ever gotten.
I put a ball on my list every year because basically after a year's time, because no one's buying me a real ball, they're buying me a replica, right? So I get the MLS, whatever the latest MLS ball for $25.99, and then by the time the next holiday rolls around, it's basically everything, the cover is all completely off of it. So I think that's always something I always tell people like, hey, if you need something to get me a ball. Thanks so much for joining. This has been another BrotherlyGame.com roundtable. Now that it's the off season, we'll be talking about some sad news, more sad news probably when they release the information about whose options have been declined or who's retiring. I mean, we might see Elsino retire. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see some players. Obviously, Brendan's gone, and Mark's probably gone, and we'll sort of see some different moves being made. I wouldn't rule out a couple trades within the league happening, and you have Austin FC coming in, so you'll have potential to lose a player, maybe a Warren Creval or something. But we'll see how that sort of transpires. But tune in, check out BrotherlyGame.com. When we have more news, we'll do another one of these. So thanks so much for joining me. All right. How do I stop? Oh, stop.